This video was brought to you by Stormberg, a route planner, Mr. Green, Kempower and Marcus Groll. Yo, what's up? We are now at Ionity and today I have actually one of the guys from Ionity here. So this is Marcus Groll. You're managing director of Ionity.
Yes. Yeah.
And we're gonna have a little Q&A. So the way I did it was that I asked beforehand in my social media and stuff about questions. So actually I selected some of the most interesting questions I will ask you. So yeah, and we have, by the way, we have me and Marcus, we have met before at Ionity Ringdalsskogen. Yeah.
2019.
Yeah, you remember
4
everything.
years.
Yeah. So I'll just dive into it now. So the first question is about expansion. So many people ask, like, are you guys coming to Portugal? Are you coming to the Eastern Europe? What about UK? So I can't ask you every country because there are so many people asking about their country.
Yes.
But what can you answer on that topic?
Of course, I mean, the expansion plan for us is really ambitious over the next 2 to 3 years. So actually until 2025, we want to double our network at least. So we are now at around 480 sites live. So it will go up to 1,000 sites by end of 2025. And also the number of outlets will not only double, but more than quadruple somehow. Yeah? So from, what is it now, 2,300, 400, up to 10,000 charging points. That's the plan actually. And not only to have a better coverage across Europe, but also have more charging points available for the customers. Because we of course see a higher utilization, sometimes even queuing on weekends. So we need to have more capacity on our sites.
But most specifically, are there some countries in Europe now that does not have Ionity yet, but will get it? I think some people mentioned Bulgaria, or some countries.
We are in 24 countries right now, so that's, I think, quite a coverage. So for example, from Eastern, if you look at Eastern Europe, we are in the Baltic states like Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, then going down Slovakia, Slovenia, Croatia, Hungary. So we are covering that part, but so far we have not decided to go further east. Okay. Because first of all, the local markets are not that big right now. And secondly, also there, we are not seeing really the need for touristic travel. So people are not touristically driving from Germany to Bulgaria at the moment. Whereas, for example, Croatia, of course, is much more interesting for many people for a holiday. And so we have not decided yet to go there. Of course, that's a future potential. We are now working on a EU-funded project together with some companies active in these countries, like Romania, Bulgaria, Greece. So these are other CPOs where we jointly, let's say, work on a project to have a, let's say, a network also in these countries. And of course, if you look then to the west side, we are going to Portugal, with Spain. There we have sites and chargers. In Portugal, maybe it's worth mentioning that you cannot see these chargers on our app, for example, because there's a special roaming setup in Portugal which we need to follow and comply to, which is called MobiE. That's a Portuguese, let's say, roaming hub. And therefore, all chargers in Portugal need to be connected there and are not accessible for our app at the moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, some people ask about that specifically.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. We also often get that question, but we are present there under this, let's say, environment and framework of MobiE in Portugal. So we are in all these countries. Of course, they are having a lot of differences in terms of utilization. And I think it's not a surprise that these Nordic countries here, like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, but also the UK, are having high utilization numbers right now. So a lot of customers coming. I mean, we see it here in Dahl, of course, but on many other sites in Norway as well. And what was also surprising to us, also Sweden is now really high. So also Sweden picked up as a market. Many customers now driving electric. UK very high actually. And then closely followed by other countries, smaller countries, from the EV perspective, like Germany or France, which are also now growing a lot. Because the sales figures are going up now.
Well, okay, sounds good. Next question is about reliability.
Yeah.
So you'll be like, oh shit.
Yeah, sure, I'm going now.
Oh, scheiße. But you know, I experienced this, but not only me on my trips, but also other people experience that the reliability on, they call it the Ionity chargers, but it's actually tritium chargers. They can be sometimes bad. Is it really that bad, or are you guys do you guys have any plans to improve it? Or?
Of course, I mean, reliability is, of course, one of the most important topics for customers. I mean, that's no question about it. Also for myself, when I'm driving electric, the worst thing which could happen is you have a queue, people waiting, and then 1 or 2 chargers would be broken. Yeah? Not only at our sites, but also at other sites, of course. So in general, that's one of our, let's say, most important targets to have, we call it uptime, yeah? A very high uptime of our chargers. Right now, we are in an area of 96% uptime, meaning 96% of our charging points are available and working, but on the other hand, of course, 4% are not. Yeah? And then, I mean, what's psychologically, of course, also happening is that people see these non-working chargers as much more important than working chargers. Yeah? So they complain on the internet and so on. And of course, that's more in the minds of the people that there's something wrong. Yeah? And of course, we are doing a lot of things now to improve it further. With all hardware manufacturers we are working with. I mean, it's tritium on the one hand, but also we have a lot of chargers with ABB right now. So, of course, there's always room for improvement on that side. Yeah? And actually, there are 2 main points we are focusing on with them. One is the engineering part. So what is really in the charger, what can be improved in terms of wiring, cooling systems, but also software-wise. And the other part, which is highly important, is, of course, the service and repair. Which people are not seeing, but it's a huge, let's say, team we are now having in Ionity, about 45 people roughly, who are just working on the operations of our charging network. Meaning people on the road with electric vans, by the way, having spare parts, tools, going out and repairing our chargers by ourselves with own Ionity guys.
So Ionity,
yeah,
not tritium, or
no, that's us. We are doing that now more and more. And we also have a spare part stock now where we put all the spare parts we need, like displays, cables, and stuff, and then can, let's say, get the spare parts really quickly to the technicians so that they can repair it. You know? And we also have a central team which is really monitoring all chargers, looks at the errors, looks at the customer tickets coming in, so that we then can quickly prioritize where do we go, where do we repair a charger. You know? So that's of course highly important, and we are continuously improving on that. But of course, I must admit we are not at the target we want to achieve, which is something like 97-98% at least. You know? And one thing also maybe worth mentioning, these chargers here are already something like 5 years old in terms of engineering. You know? And these were the first HPC chargers, high power chargers, the 350 kilowatts, which you could, let's say, buy from hardware suppliers. And of course, they are not always perfect from the start, like also other cars or other appliances. They are not always working perfectly from the beginning. But of course, now due to the high utilization and all the learnings we had, we are continuously improving on that one as well. Yeah.
Well, okay, good. I will. I mean, you know that, Marcus. By the way, do you watch my videos?
Of course.
Oh, you do?
I'm not having time for all of them, okay. I must admit, but a lot actually. Yeah.
So you have watched my 1,000 kilometer challenges, right?
Yes, of course.
And you see I run into broken Ionity chargers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, we'll see.
We now prioritize according to the sites you are using. So they should be better now, I hope.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right. Next question. Many people ask about this also. Mm-hmm. Many people feel that you are not expanding as fast. And why are you not expanding? They look at Tesla, they look at other like Fastnet, and they see expansion. Mm-hmm. But what about Ionity?
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, we are expanding, so it's not that we are not opening new sites. Yeah? So, for example, here in Norway, recently we opened a site in Valdresporten when you drive from Oslo to Bergen on the E16. We're having many sites in the pipeline, which you cannot see right now because we are just working on it. Maybe just a short glimpse of what has to happen to realize a site, and of course that's the same also for Tesla and all the others. But you need first to find a site, which is not easy because there are many competitors right now out there. Then you need building permits to build it actually. You need a grid connection, and in our case it's quite a big one actually. Here we talk about 2.4 megawatts, yeah, which also can take some time from the grid operator. And then you need all the hardware and the construction works. Yeah? So hardware needs to be built, manufactured. It's not only the chargers, it's also here the substations, which are quite critical right now because many companies need substations. So CPOs, charge point operators, but also wind turbine operators, they all need substations. So sometimes you really have to wait quite a long time, up to a year in some countries, to get a substation delivered. No? And then you have to coordinate all that. And then on our map, you then see as one of the last steps that we start construction with the site and then build it in sometimes 1-2 months, sometimes faster, sometimes longer. and then we really go live. So it's like the tip of the iceberg you really see, and most of the work is done internally and nobody recognizes that. And I mean, the only thing I can say now, this plan we are having until 2025, that's really solid now, because we have almost all the sites secured. We need to fulfill this target, and therefore we are really confident that we will make it. And you will see, and also the audience will see, a lot of increase in the next year from us. Also here in Norway, but also in all the other countries as well. Yeah.
Okay, well, interesting. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, and then also next question is, are you guys making profit now?
I cannot go into details here, of course, but I think what is also not surprising is that the countries where we are having high usage numbers, for sure, are much more profitable or already in the profitability range. So these countries are more profitable than other countries where there are not so many customers. I mean, that's clear. We make margins on each kilowatt hour we sell. So therefore, this is driving the profitability a lot. Yeah?
Okay.
And the countries where we are having the high utilization, like Norway, Sweden, Denmark, UK, they are in that range already, which have having a plus in front of the figures. But of course, on the other hand, it's also depending on how you calculate it, because the main thing financially we do is invest a lot of money in the first place. I mean, this site here we talk about in euros, 1.5, 1.6 million euros investment to build such a substation, grid connection and all the chargers. And of course it takes quite some time to really, let's say, pay back this investment. Yeah.
Well, so this one here, we have, let me see, how many stalls is this one? 12 stalls.
12, yes.
So you mentioned, how much was the price? 1.6
million roughly.
Million euros.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All together, no? So grid connection, substation, hardware, and also the groundworks you have to do to put everything into the ground.
Everything.
Foundation,
okay.
cabling, and so on. So that's quite an amount that's coming together. Yeah.
That's a little bit more than 100,000 euros per unit or per charger, then, roughly.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is also something many people wonder. Why are you so greedy? You take this high price compared to home charging.
Yeah.
But you can't compare home charging with high power charging.
That's the point. I mean, I just mentioned now the high investment, and of course we are not doing that just for fun to, let's say, make people happy. In the end, we need to be a profitable company, as all companies actually.
Oh, you're not Red Cross?
No, we are not. No, and therefore we have to make a margin on the kilowatt hours. Yeah? And actually, the price we are buying the kilowatt hours for is not that much lower than what we pay at home. Yeah? Because we also have to pay taxes, we have to pay grid fees, and therefore we have to make a margin on top of your, let's say, home price. To refinance this investment in the end. Yeah?
And then, can you guys survive now without EU support and without the support from the car manufacturers?
Yes. I mean, of course, the big advantage we have was from the beginning that we have the big car makers as investors behind us. They gave us quite some money to invest, but already there we saw we need more chargers than originally planned, and that's why we also applied for subsidies to afford more charging points to have a better customer offering. Yeah? And then last year we also got a new investor on board, which is BlackRock, one of the big, let's say, financial investment companies in the world. And of course with that, and that has been also communicated, we were able to secure a funding round of 700 million euros for this growth I just mentioned for the next 2 or 3 years, to grow our network significantly to fulfill the customer demands. Yeah? And that needs a lot of investment up front. And then, of course, the returns are coming rather long term because it's an infrastructure investment and not something like an app, for example, where you invest €1 million and then you make huge profits after 2 years. That's a different business model. No?
Okay, but you still, you still need to get funding from car manufacturers, right?
At the moment, yes.
Yeah. They want to drive this forward anyway, like Volkswagen and Mercedes.
No, they did it in the beginning, of course, to get such a network up and running. And also that's one of the reasons why we started with 350 kilowatts, to show, okay, this is the step forward. Yeah, this is the future, and this is possible actually. You know? And maybe you could say it's a bit too much because many cars are not using that much power. But I think it's really necessary in terms of showing what's technically possible. And secondly, we now see that the car side is also developing a lot. Now, I mean, more and more 800-volt cars coming from our friends from Porsche and so on, and also from Hyundai and Kia, one of our other shareholders, and also Chinese companies are going now into 800 volts. So our chargers, of course, perfectly suited for that and have the capabilities. And we are not investing just for 2-3 years. We want to keep this investment at least 10 to 15 years up and running. So we decided for that, let's say, quite high power in the beginning.
Yes, because some people also asked about, okay, you mentioned 350 kilowatts, but have you not considered power sharing?
We are considering it, let's put it like this. It's a financial point, actually. I mean, as a matter of fact, technically, when you see this side here, we have 2.4 megawatt grid connection, 12 chargers. So each charger can only get 200 kilowatts from that perspective. So if all poles are full and every car wants to have 300, then we also need to do power sharing, let's say, at least from the grid connection point of view. The power units, which are around the corner here, so the rectifiers for AC-DC conversion, they have always 350 kilowatts per charging point. So from that perspective, we make sure that each customer can get the full power unless the site is fully occupied and we have to throttle down a little bit due to the grid capacity. So from that perspective, it's not a black and white yes and no answer. It's somewhere in the middle. So we have optimized already on the grid connection. And what we are now working on is to find better solutions for the DC power sharing in the future, which also might then lead to a solution where some charging points might have power sharing and some not, to be more efficient and then also, let's say, reflect the car fleet out in the market, where not all cars are 300 kilowatt cars, but also a lot with 100, 150 kilowatt charging speed.
Okay, but if you want to implement some power sharing, can you use the same Ionity? Can you use the same tritium chargers, or
no? We need. I mean, here we have a load management system first of all, which balances the power among all charging points. So if the load management sees we need more than 2.4 megawatts grid capacity, then it's throttling down the power on all the charging points actually. But we are also now looking at other solutions with this where the DC AC-DC converters are also doing power sharing more than we are doing here with tritium chargers, but that requires different hardware, new hardware.
So you mean different chargers and
different chargers? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, have you considered other?
Of course.
Some people mentioned Kempower.
Yes. Yeah.
Or maybe Algotronic.
Yeah. I cannot say a lot on that, but we are investigating it. Let's put it like this.
Because there's one thing. If you guys see in the background here, I mean, there's something about the design language of Ionity. So the other charger, they don't look nice and tall.
We are really proud about that. I mean, that was a lot of effort actually to design that charger. Also here with tritium and ABB, we are having a special product which has the Ionity design. And we think, and also get that feedback more and more from customers, that this is really something specific. And also just practically at night, you see these chargers from quite a distance. They have this light, we call it halo on top, which you can see. It's then a more friendly atmosphere instead of just having a dark charger somewhere. So we think this is really important. And we also think it needs to be, let's say, allocated, or not allocated, but it needs to be linked to the 350 kilowatt charging power. So if there might be other chargers in the future, they might also look a little bit different, so that customers can see the difference between the 350s and other chargers with power sharing, for example.
Okay. And then many people also ask about plug-in charge.
Plug-in charge.
Does it work? Or
yes.
It's working
on all our chargers in all of Europe except Portugal. I must say, due to this roaming setup I described. And we have some new chargers where the software still needs to be, let's say, updated in some countries. The new generation of ABB chargers, which we are rolling out right now, still needs a software update. But then on all these chargers, you can use plug and charge according to this ISO standard 15118. So cars like Mercedes or Porsche or Ford Mach-E and also other manufacturers will now follow with plug and charge functionality. Because their customers are very clear. They say that's great, that's much more comfortable. I don't need to worry about apps and cards and everything. Just plug in and then everything goes automatically. So we are also, I think we were one of the first in Europe really pushing that on the standard. Of course, Tesla had a similar solution, but let's say internally, proprietary. But this our network is the first one where you can really use it with different vehicles now.
Okay, so the reason why plug and charge it doesn't work for some cars is it's just the car.
Yes.
It's not the charge. Okay.
Yeah, and some cars will also get it as software updates. No, so it's if the hardware is already installed in the car, some car makers are still developing it, and then with over-the-air updates they will enable it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, this will be the case for Volkswagen. So they do software updates then on the ID cars, and then you can also use plug and charge with these vehicles.
All right, great.
Yeah.
But then, in some cases where, for example, you don't want to use plug and charge, will you guys offer card payment?
Yes,
in the future?
we will.
You will?
Yeah, we
so
are already.
Card terminal.
Sorry?
You will have card terminal.
Yes, yes. So, for example, if you are interested, this site in Valdresporten in north of Oslo, there are already the terminals included. They are installed already, and we will now decide when we enable them. Actually, some sites in France we are already operating with card terminals because that was also a requirement there. And now we have the technology up and running, and now we will decide where does it make most sense to really include it. You know? And also for older sites, we are now thinking about at least having separate payment terminals, where you then go to one terminal, select the charge point and pay there, which is much easier for us because we do not need to install and include the payment terminals in the chargers. You know? And then you also have that functionality also for existing sites with older hardware. You know?
Yeah, that sounds smart.
Yeah.
When I wash the car, I already go to one terminal to do the thing, and then I choose booth.
Yeah, exactly. That's the same logic. Yeah,
And then,
that's also coming. I mean, from some requirements, also legal requirements in some countries. So, for example, in Germany, they. I think the current plan was to have it mandatory by summer this year. They now postponed it by 1 year. But in some countries it really becomes mandatory to have credit card payments.
Yeah, maybe Norway.
Maybe Norway as well.
Yeah.
The point we should not forget, it's quite costly. No, it's the terminal costs some money, but especially the operation of the terminal is quite expensive. So
monthly cost, or what is it that costs money?
Yeah, it's some euros per month per terminal. Yeah, and then it adds up, of course. Yeah.
Oh, so if you can share the terminal,
that's
better.
cheaper. That's a cheaper solution, definitely. But if you put it in each charger and you have bigger charging hubs with 12 or 24 chargers, that's quite some money. You just pay for the payment terminals. Yeah? So we, of course, are, let's say, also from a financial perspective, are looking into that really closely. What is the best solution there? Yeah?
And then also, we just happen to be this Ionity. Well, you guys know this site, but Ionity Dal. There's also a truck resting place.
They are standing there.
Yeah. And from time to time, I see trucks charging here. But it doesn't seem like this site has been optimized or designed for trucks. But do you guys, what do you guys think about trucks? Do you want trucks to charge here, or?
Well, I mean, there are two aspects of that. First of all, when we planned this site here, nobody thought about electric trucks. No? We thought maybe some vans will come. That's why we have this drive-through setup here, or passenger cars with caravans. Before you arrived, there was one guy here with a caravan, a trailer. So that's fine here, I think. Yeah? But we didn't think about that really electric trucks would come. What we now see and more, we get every day more or less pictures from customers saying, oh, there's a truck standing or a bus standing. And unfortunately, they sometimes block other charging points because they are so big. You know? And therefore, there are two things we now are considering. First of all, for new sites, how can we make sure that the trucks are not blocking the passenger cars? Because that's really annoying, of course, for the passenger cars customers. Secondly, what kind of options do we have to, let's say, then also have some truck charging points there, if it's possible from a space. Yeah? And the third point, of course, the topic in general, what are we doing there in general? Yeah? Is it a business for us? Is it something we are not really interested in? So that's something we are thinking about, at least at the moment, and discussing. Because the trucks will come now. I mean, that's clear. Looking at the projections, in 3-4 years, a lot of electric trucks will come. And then we need to avoid, as an industry, that there's a big fight between trucks trying to charge and passenger cars trying to charge. We need to manage that really well. Otherwise, it will be really frustrating for everybody.
Yeah, I've seen Circle K. I talked to Circle K, where I live. Sometimes I see 3 or 4 trucks taking up those regular stalls.
Yes.
It fits barely.
Yeah.
And then there's a BMW i3 in between there.
Yeah. And I mean, technically, at the moment, they are the only vehicles which draw 350 kilowatts. No?
Yeah, that's the thing.
The site in Helsingborg, where you are also often charging on your 1,000 kilometer trip, there's a transport company next door, and they have tractors, electric tractors with 800 kilowatt hour batteries, and they charge 1 hour flat 350 kilowatt. They do that every second day, more or less, and then drive. Yeah? So it makes sense for them, of course. And with tractors, it's quite okay because they are not so long. But if they have a trailer, it gets really tricky, you know. Yeah.
Well, at least for Circle K, I think when I talk to them, they're planning on dedicated truck places, and then they will have regular
separate
cars.
Yeah.
But which solution are you guys considering?
We are not sure at the moment, to be honest. We rather think about combinations then. If we have a big site in the future and there's some space left, that might be an option. But if this is not the case, then we at least need to make sure that trucks cannot enter there, because otherwise, if it's a small or smaller passenger car site, then they would block everything. You know? So that's something we definitely need to avoid. So this concept from Circle K to really split it up also makes a lot of sense, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, interesting. Right. The next question is about Chadamo.
Yeah.
You guys never supported Chadamo, but except for one place I saw in Austria.
Yeah.
That was a 50 kilowatt.
Yes.
You guys probably took over that one.
Yeah.
But will you ever get Chadamo here?
No, I mean, we never had Chadamo on our, let's say, watch list, because already when we started, it was clear for our shareholders, especially the CCS is the future, and we do not want to invest money into Chadamo chargers. Yeah. I think that was also the right decision looking back. Nevertheless, we have some exemptions, let's say, which were based on regulatory requirements, especially on public highways, like in Austria, but also in France. We have about 110, 120 multi-chargers with also Chadamo connector, because that was required in the past to also offer Chadamo connectors so everybody can really charge. We also needed to offer AC charging there in order that also older Renault Zoes, for example, can charge there. Yeah? So we put up these multi-chargers, are also operating them on our behalf, but we are not, let's say, really having plans to extend that unless it's legally required. Yeah.
Because it costs extra, right? Let's say if you, for some reason, will want to add Chadamo plugs here, will it cost extra for investment and maintenance?
Of course it does. I mean, on the other hand, these 50 kilowatt multi-chargers are far cheaper than the 350 high power chargers. And also here, I mean, there's the another charge point or two charge points over there which also have Chadamo. No?
Yeah, that's a Circle K one.
Circle K chargers, yeah. And that's also in some cases in other countries where there are older chargers already there, then I mean the customers can go to these 50 kilowatt Chadamo chargers. And as the number of vehicles who are really using that is the share is decreasing constantly, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to further invest money into it at the moment. I think even Nissan now moved to CCS in Europe. I'm not completely sure. Yeah, I think the Ariya is also CCS now.
Yeah, CCS.
Yeah, so it's over, I would say, for Chadamo.
Yeah. Okay, we're almost done. Some people also wonder, the ad hoc price is really high. Why is it so high? Have you guys considered lowering it?
We are considering everything, let's put it like this. And of course, we are closely looking into the market, what's happening. And the reason why we have this ad hoc price there, because I mean that's the price everybody gets actually, without any subscriptions or any special, let's say, contracts. That's what everybody pays with the app, for example, or later on also with the credit card terminals. But besides that, we also have these kind of more attractive bundle offers where you can get, for example, with a car, you get a cheaper price, which makes charging really attractive then. And then you have the spread of the higher ad hoc price and the lower price for these cars. And we have to do a mixed calculation about that actually, And many things are under discussion there. And the other point, of course, looking back the last 2 years, the electricity prices were going up and down, especially up a lot, but we didn't change that price. So we kept it constant. Of course, you could say it was always high, but at least it was not raised by us over the last two years. And the second point is, of course, we are looking into all, let's say, the models now in the different countries. Also, the price levels are really different among the countries. So we are working on that, of course, and we will see what will happen there. Yeah.
All right. Well, last question is, for subscription, you have yearly subscription. Will you consider monthly subscriptions?
Yes, it will come out soon.
Ah, okay. Yes.
I cannot tell you all the details, but it will come.
Yeah, okay.
Quite soon. Next month, probably.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually all the questions I had. I tried to pick the most interesting ones. So I wonder, is there something else you want to add?
No, I mean, just thanks a lot for your time as well here to do the interview. I think it's great to also talk to you, but also the last 2-3 days I was here in Norway driving around, and I mean, it's always, for Germans, it's amazing to see all the EVs running around. Yeah? So I was starting to count when I came here, but I stopped it after 10 minutes because I mean, there are just EVs on some roads. So that's amazing to see what's happening here in Norway. And I think also how easy it works now. Chargers are everywhere, especially high power chargers. The rental car I got is electric, no problem. In some other countries, if you ask, or want to have an electric rental car, they say, what's this? We don't have that. Yeah? But here it's just normal. Yeah? And I think from that perspective, Norway is really a cool, let's say, model, or a very good model, what will happen in the next few years in the other European countries as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we can learn from that. Yeah? And that's also really good for us because we are here, but also in all the other countries, we can also see the different customer behavior, yeah? And their preferences, and understand that. Yeah? And then, yeah, of course, I mean, if there are things popping up, we are always happy to help customers. We have a hotline, so please, if there's an issue, call the hotline. They try to help you with that. And of course, I'm also happy to receive feedback. We are constantly improving. I think that's normal. I mean, you cannot be perfect from the start, but I think there are really many things we are doing. Also, maybe if you are in Munich in the future, we have a test site, a test area, where we install all our chargers, but also other hardware to test it. Yeah? Test it before it's launched, test it with new cars, with prototypes, to make sure that this is working smoothly for the customer. So that's also really important for us, that we call it interoperability, that this works really between the car and the charger. There's a lot of software in between, yeah? And protocols and so on. And we need to make sure as an industry that this is really working smoothly for the customer. Yeah? That's also not always the case. Some new cars have issues, and we talk with the hardware, with the car makers, and explain it to them. They come testing, and then quickly they can do software updates to improve the situation for the customer as well. Yeah? So that's really important for us to let's say, in the end, improve the customer experience step by step. Yeah.
Thank you so much, by the way, for coming here, Marcus.
Thank you, Bjørn.
Yeah.
So, next time in Munich.
Yeah, next time in Munich. Yeah. And then, maybe this just sparks more questions from my audience.
Yeah, of course.
But it was at least nice to get many answers.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's going to be it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, thank you for watching, and talk to you later.